Hello, this is your special education virtual content specialist with the 8th grade math lesson for May 25th. This lesson, like all other lessons, can be found on TeachHub. All lessons include the title, the focus question, the learning objectives, including the standards and objectives for each lesson. Each lesson also provides guidance for using this resource, including instructional and technology guidance, implementation guidance for the lesson, guidance for summarizing, guidance for assessment during instruction, and general methods of engaging with students with disabilities and multilingual learners. 8th graders are going to continue working on Unit 8, the Pythagorean Theorem and Irrational Numbers. Day 20, Applications of the Pythagorean Theorem. How can we find the length of the diagonal of a rectangular prism? For the introduction, students are going to be presented this image and they're going to write down their noticings and their wonderings. To support students with disabilities, allow them to bullet note their noticings and wonderings and tell them that it does not have to be in the form of a complete sentence. Some students might say it's a rectangular prism. Some students might say it's a cube. You might want to let students know that it is not necessarily a cube, especially when you don't have the measurements. And just by looking at it visually, you can see that not all the sides are of equal length. Students might notice that there is a blue line running across from one corner of the rectangular prism to the other. Students may wonder why that line is there. Some students might wonder what the length of the sides of this rectangular prism are, so on and so forth. For the Explore, you can divide each slide into an I do, we do, you do. So for the first slide, which figure do you think has the longer diagonal? And note that the figures are not drawn to scale. So a sample response might be, I think prism L has a longer diagonal since it has a larger volume than prism K and similar dimensions. For the we do, you and the students are going to collectively determine the length of the diagonal of prism K. So in order to do that, you need to support students with disabilities, and you can do that by adding another diagonal right here at the bottom. That way students realize they need to find the hypotenuse of that triangle first. 4 squared plus 5 squared equals 41, so that means s squared is 41, and that's what we're going to call that diagonal first. And so to find this diagonal now, we're going to say that it is equal to 6 squared plus s squared, and so that is equal to 36 plus 41, which equals the square root of 77. And so the diagonal is equal to square root of 77. Students may also point out that this is the same thing as the square root of 6 squared plus 4 squared plus 5 squared, which will also get you square root of 77. If students use that ladder strategy from prism K in the you do, they should find that the length of prism L is the same thing as the square root of 5 squared plus 5 squared plus 5 squared. And that's going to get you the square root of 75. Students are going to now answer this slide as an additional you do, and so they should be able to say that prism K has the longer diagonal. And For what generalizations can you make about the diagonal of a rectangular prism, students should know that the diagonal length of rectangular prisms are the square root of the sum of the squares of the three edge lengths. So if a rectangular prism has sides D, E, F, then the length of the diagonal is just D squared plus E squared plus F squared. To summarize, students are going to respond to the focus question, how can we find the length of the diagonal of a rectangular prism? You can provide them a sentence starter so they can focus on the content of their answer rather than the sentence structure, and then they can complete the cool down. For additional practice, students can complete Engage New York, 8th grade, Module 7, Lesson 18 problem set, and Khan Academy Pythagorean Theorem in 3D. This lesson, like all lessons, were created utilizing illustrative mathematics and open up resources. Please feel free to use them to support digital learning. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to a visual content specialist. Thank you.